and we are
Okay.
recording for them. And I have posted yesterday's recording, last 2 days recording. Somebody was asking. I have already posted it in the folder here. It's day 2, and this one is already there.
Yeah. Honestly, I recorded day 2. I didn't have a day 1, but you say to me, go to
It's on the
the.
YouTube. Yeah, I put it on the
Yeah.
YouTube, and here
Yeah.
I have put day 1 also. So day 1 is there.
Yeah. I found it from YouTube. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Okay. So I'm just recording the class, and I'm giving recording rights to everybody. So you can also start recording your laptop.
Okay.
And today we will do the class. We'll repeat what we did yesterday. Plus we do that, and we'll do Gaia. Okay. And I also have the remote rack ready today. So we will be able
Oh,
to, yeah, so I'll give you at the end of the class, I'll give you credentials for this.
okay. Sounds good. So Vegas, I have a question, honestly. I've applied what we did it, so, but I have one thing it was strange with me. When I exported the uh, certification CA from the firewall, when I've installed on the computer, and wouldn't ask me about the password. I don't know what I did it wrong.
It should ask you, when you create the certificate,
Yeah.
it should ask you the password for that, sure.
Even though when I created, I put the password and I repeated the password, but when I've been installed and within asking the password, yeah, it was a bit strange.
It should basically do that, it should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. So I'll just give you an idea of what we are going to do today.
Okay.
And, we'll do initially Gaia, and then we will set up everything. I have a new setup today. I have one test machine, plus I'm using VMware. ESXi today. So I have ESXi today. I'm building a board, and I have 2 checkpoints, checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2.
Yeah.
At this time, and a smart console. This is all in distributed board. Then I have one testing machine ready, and the other one I am installing right now. So the 2 testing machines we will have ready. Okay, and this will be this can be accessed from one of the testing machine, which is Windows 7.
Yeah.
We can, RDP it from the outside world. So this is right now I have done RDP from the outside world.
Yeah. And one thing, if we do the identity, do you think we need Windows Active Directory or
We need, so we can do locally also, and we will do using Windows Active Directory also. We can do both ways.
Oh, okay.
So today I'm going to also install Windows 2016 or 2012 server into this testing environment, so that when we do the identity awareness, we should be able to do using Active Directory and local database both.
Sounds good. Yeah, because that's the reason, even though I've been installing Windows Server 2016 on my EXSI server. Yeah. So honestly, I try to apply with you when you are working and showing us the stuff.
Correct. Okay, in the meantime, those who are not there in the WhatsApp group, I am just going to share the group information, because I have new students here who are not part of the group. So I'll just...
What's your WhatsApp? Can I have it?
Yeah, I'll just put it here.
Okay.
The WhatsApp group. I think you are already there in the group.
Let me double check from my side. Yeah, honestly, I usually believe the practice and not more theory. So that's the reason I try to apply as much as I can.
Okay, I looks like I'm not the admin of this group. Bala is the admin here. Okay, let me put. Guys, you see this number here?
This number, I will add here.
Yeah, just send a request for him to add you to the checkpoint group. This number, okay? Because
Okay.
I'm not the admin for this group.
Okay.
Okay, so let me put it here in the chat window. You just add it.
33.
Okay, so that's a number. I put it in the chat window. So guys, we'll start the class now, and I have this checkpoint installed in the ESXi today, not on the local machine. So there will be a little bit of variation of what we have been doing, and we have to basically do it from the scratch. Here is my smart console. Here is the smart console we have, and I have to reboot it once because I recently just now changed the IP address of this. So I'm just going to reboot it once. Reboot. Okay. Now, so this is all good. Let's go to CP1 and CP2, and we have two of these firewalls. The gateways have already set them up. So all we require is here 10, 4, 12. I think it's 102. One of the gateway. Okay, not in this. Here. 10, 4, 12, 101 and 102 are two gateways I have. So this is my gateway number 1. So first we'll look at the Gaia options, and then we'll go back and do everything else. Okay, so this gateway is not added to the smart console right now. It is just installed and nothing else. It has not been even connected anywhere. You see that all the blades here are basically, you can see that all the blades here are not enabled. We can see because it's not being added. As soon as you add it to smart console, at least firewall blade will be up and active. But because it is not added to the smart console at this time, this gateway, so the firewall blade is not active. Okay, there are two modes that we have in the Gaia here. You can see the advanced and the basic. So when I do basic, it should be very basic information about giving interface address. Sorry. Okay. Okay, giving the interface related information. And there's some very basic information which is here. Okay, very few options if you see. If you go to advanced, you have all routing protocols or the multicasting related stuff, backup related stuff. Everything is there under advanced. So generally we prefer advanced as an option. Okay, so first thing that you have to do when your gateway is ready, make sure two things happen. One is your interfaces, the IP configuration should be correct. Okay, so this is my management IP. If I go back to, so it should be configured. So let's say I go back to the second one here, and I say 172.16 to 30. Okay, I'm going to take a photo of these. This is my CP1. This is my CP1 IP. Outside IP, And then I have inside IP, which could be anything. We can put it like 10.10 dot something, 10.10.1.20, 255.255.255.0. Okay, let's name it inside because the naming has a lot of benefits. Okay, so this is going to be our outside because my internet connection is basically today. This is a new topology. We are on the ESXi server. So the IP addressing is a little changed here. So this is done for CP1, okay, or you want to call it CP2, that's absolutely fine. Let's see if we have HTTPS 10.4.12.101. Okay, this is for my CP2. In fact, I should have named it differently because this is
Because is that compulsory to create management IP or something like that?
yeah, this is management IP. I'm using right now management IP.
Is that compulsory? I mean, can we use, for example, internal IP address or external IP address as a management?
Yeah, you can use, depending on what is your connectivity, you can use any IP for any interface. Till
okay.
You know, the only requirement is that you should be basically, what do you call it? It should be routable in your network. You should be able to reach to the management interface, whatever IP you put, it should be routable.
Yeah.
Like in today's network, I have these as routable networks.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one of my gateway. I think it's not installed. I'm just going to install it quickly. So out of 2 gateways, one is not installed. And this is going to be gateway only. So here it is, gateway. No dynamic IP. Activation key is going to be Cisco 123. Cisco 123. Okay. Finish. So this will keep on happening. We'll go back to our smart console. I'm on an RDP machine. As you can see that I'm not on a local machine and I'm not running any of the component locally. I'm already into an RDP, which is actually in the same VM server. Here is our smart console. Okay, cool. Actually, what happened is I changed the IP address later, so the status is shown as this, but it will basically refresh after some time and it will show us active. I'm going to add my first gateway to this quickly. So let's say CP2 probably. Ten 4.12.102. Platform is open because it's a VM. If the reachability is good, it should be able to connect fast. Okay. Cisco 123. And you can see that the trust is established. So one gateway is there, the other is getting installed right now. So the current changes of this is okay. It's fine. Not sure what is the issue with it. Let's try again. That's the reason we should always, the problem is I have changed the IP addresses. of these gateways. Initially, they were given some other IP. What will happen with it is, if you change management IP, of the gateway or the smart console, you can see in the smart console also there is a red sign. The certificate initially, which was generated for the authenticity of this platform, was actually bound to the initial IP. Okay, so this will create a problem. So we should be very careful about it. 102. Okay, it's not showing us here, but it is telling that the gateway is present. Okay, let's change the name here. CP4 Open Server 10.4.12.102. Do you want to use this IP anyways? Yes, we will use it. SIG has not been, you can continue by selecting initiate and all that. Okay. Okay, so when we change the IP address, generally, so the next process we should do is we should go and reset the SIG for it. So I'll just go and reset the SIG for the same. I can also telnet or SSH from this. I don't have PuTTY, I believe, because it's a new testing machine. So I'll install PuTTY. Ten 4.12.102. Okay, what's that? Ten 4.12.102. Okay. So anytime you have any IP address change of the management, make sure you reset your SIG, which is you actually regenerate your certificate using the new configuration or new IP address. How do we do that? We do it using this. I go to the option number 5. I press yes. So it's asking me, do you want to basically reset your SIG? You want to regenerate your certificate with the new IP? I'll say yes. What's your activation key? What is the activation key I want to keep? New activation key or old activation key, whatever way you want it. And I'll say 10. You see that as soon as I exit, I did not do a reboot or this restart. It happens on its own. So this is very, very important whenever we are basically resetting any of our gateways IP address, management IP address. Okay, so that's how it is. Guys, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. So let's go to the smart console again and we'll go back to the same object. We'll try to reinitiate our communication. This time it is successful. and it's has same. Do you want to skip it? And I'm fine with it. Could not access file for write operation. Whereas the current changes to this are invalid and therefore must be discarded. Is the same. Do you keep changes anyways? There's something wrong with the smart console, it seems. Because this also we have. I'll telnet to this also. Guys, give me a second, please. Okay, and let's see. I'll SSH to smart console itself. So 10.4.12.10. Sorry, 20. Okay, we are trying to reset the certificate for this also, the server. The reason for that is because we have changed the IP address of the smart console. And I'll reboot it. We want to reboot it? Yes, we want to reboot using the new certificate. We want to try again. Okay. We should lose the connectivity because smart console is actually rebooting right now. So this connectivity will be gone for a few minutes. Okay, in the meantime, I'll go back to Gaia when all the things are coming back. I'll go to this place. Okay, so we were talking about the various interfaces, and the first step that we should do is to configure our interfaces. The second step I always suggest is to give your default gateway correct. Okay, so here my default gateway is 10.4.12.254, which is wrong. That should be for my management, but for my outside world, I need to have another address. So 172.16.2.254 is my gateway. Okay, and save it. So two most important thing done. Rest are most of it is basically a choice-based solution. You can put additional stuff. So let's start from the top. You have an option of advanced or basics, right? Then you have an overview tab. In overview, you can see what is the basic, all the IP addresses, the interfaces are up or down, enabled or not. If you have blades enabled, your throughput and packet rate, and which blades are enabled, for how long your checkpoint gateway is up, etc. And if you have any updates, etc., it can basically tell you that these are the updates you had, which has been updated. Okay, it can also tell you is it a 32-bit or 64-bit. So 64-bit, of course, will be better for performance. But if you do not have enough resources, let's say you have less than 40 GB of hard drive space, it will move it on to 32-bit version of the checkpoint gateway on its own. Okay, After network interfaces, so let's go to network interface one more time to see what are the other options we have here. So here you have to enable. This is the first thing. If you do not enable, just give the config, and you don't enable, that's not a good idea. Generally, it's a good idea to give the name also. Guys, give me a second, please. Okay, sorry for that. Some of the students are not able to connect, it seems. So the next option we have is that you can have IPv6 address given on the platform. It does support. So if your company has moved to IPv6, you can give IPv6 address. Then you have the duplex and link speed, etc., the MTU size, etc. If you are using it just for monitoring purpose, you can basically use. If you are using it in IPS, IDS kind of environment, so that is generally people don't use it. People use it for production itself. And here, if you have jumbo MTU, you can set your MTU based on your network if you're connecting to Nexus and other platforms. And if you have specific requirement, you can move it to jumbo MTU as well. So this is about interfaces. These are the only option you have. You set up all interfaces. By default, a loopback is already created. You don't have to create it. For the testing purpose, it's already there. Okay, then we have the options for ARP. If you look at it, everywhere I have an option for configuration and monitoring on the right hand side. Okay, sometimes it's important for us to give static ARP entries in our network, so we can do static ARP here. Just add the IP and the MAC address, IP and the MAC address, and that's all. Then the ARP table, how long do you want to keep your ARP entries as valid? You can do that. Also about proxy ARP, if you want to add proxy ARP entries, you can add it here. Okay. Then you have DHCP server. If you want your firewall to act as DHCP server also, you can configure it as a DHCP server and give the DHCP pool. So it will start assigning the default gateway, IP address, subnet, and the interface, etc. It will start giving all those things. The next thing we have here is your DNS entries. If you want to give local DNS, if you are not using any DNS server, you can give DNS host entries here. If you are using DNS server, you have to give your DNS server entries. So generally is a good idea so that you can get updates, because it will try to resolve your name using the host name. So it will go to checkpoint.com to get the updates, right? And to go to checkpoint.com, you need to have DNS servers. So each of these gateways will try to get its update directly from checkpoint.com, which will, once we go down here, we will be able to see a lot of these options of updating software updates, etc. You require a username, password, and it will go in the background and it will keep on upgrading itself with those username and passwords. Okay, so that's your whole, yes.
Sorry, Vegas. How about the IP helper? How we can enable IP helper on the interface? Is there a way from the GUI, or we have to do it from the command line?
No, it's basically it should be here somewhere. It should be here somewhere. IP broadcast item. Here it is.
Oh, okay, thank you.
No. So the next option we have is static routes. Make sure you point you have static routes here. You can also check your routing table for all the routes that you have here, static routes here. you can do monitoring or you can do configuration. I have set it for my gateway 172.16.2.254, and this should help my gateway to go to internet, right? So people in the future will be able to access my this particular gateway from internet. If I do some entries on my, what do you call it, my company router, you will see that you will be actually able to telnet or SSH on this gateway as well. I'll just do that for you so that you can have a clue of it. How is it going to look like? Okay, I'm just going to create an entry for this particular guy. What is his public IP? His public IP for this gateway is 172.16.2.30. Okay, so I'm just going to create an entry for it. Sorry, not here. Here. One 172.16.2.30, port number 23. Sorry, I'll say 22 SSH, and you can do using 2222. Okay, guys. Now what will happen is, you can, sitting right now from your machine, you can SSH to this address, fiber.networkershome.com, port number, in for SSH type 222. What will happen? You will actually land up at this gateway, port number 22. Okay, so sitting anywhere, you will be able to SSH this particular gateway, and you can also do HTTPS to it if the configuration is created for that particular gateway. So it makes it reachable. The whole idea is to make it reachable. You need to have routable addresses, or you need to have routing in place so that you can start utilizing those things. So our reboot process is done. We'll go back to our smart console to see. This is still showing this. Let's change the IP address here. 10.4.12.20. Okay. My smart console is invisible. It's I don't know where it is gone. So let's try this here. So CP2 10.4.12.102. Cisco 123. Cisco 123. Okay, so let's delete first our objects. So 10.4.12.202. Okay, let's see what are the objects created for it. It's showing us the object is there, but it is not showing here. CP2 as an object. Each time we are adding the entry, it shows us that it is basically there. Okay, so let's come back to this. I think we'll first finish the Gaia and then we'll come back to this because it's not working. So we'll see how to reinstall it or something. So network interfaces are, we were at static route. Make sure you put right static route so that you can go to internet. And I'm not sure if you guys have tried that IP that I gave you. Have you anybody tried to SSH to this? fiber.networkershome.com port 2222.
Yeah, I did, and ask me about username and password.
Correct, but that means you are able to reach there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is one of the gateway which is accessible from internet. You can do SSH to it, and it will basically, because of this that particular translation, it will land you to this particular gateway. Okay, so this is because this particular IP gateway is correctly set to internet and it is taking me to internet. That's the reason this particular firewall is basically you are landing here at 2.30. Okay, so if you want to configure NetFlow, you can collect all the information. If you have a NetFlow server, you should put your server's IP address here. Also, what kind of NetFlow version are you using? Different versions are there. What will happen with NetFlow is all the traffic which is passing through this particular firewall, a copy of that will be sent to NetFlow server, and NetFlow basically can utilize a huge amount of information out of it, which means how much HTTP traffic, how much social media traffic, how much other kind of traffic. So the NetFlow servers basically they can extract the detail out of the traffic, and they can present you with a beautiful graph that a lot of people are using video, or a lot of people are using, let's say, SSH or whatever kind of traffic you have. You will come to know in your network through your firewall what kind of traffic is actually flowing through, what is the percentage of traffic, what is the the bits, bytes, or gigabit of that kind of traffic. So, but you have to configure your NetFlow server first, and then you put that IP. Let's say in my case, probably my NetFlow server could be somewhere here. So I can, this is my source IP, which interface I want to use. Maybe I want to use management IP, so I'll use management IP and the server IP. This is the source IP, my own source IP, because it depends where is my server located. Is it located in outside? Is it located inside? So based on that, I need to give source address here. The next thing we have is set up your time, date and time. You can set your time zone.
I have a question here, like, will the Cisco Prime work as a network server for this?
Yeah, NetFlow, basically NetFlow can be third-party vendor. So Checkpoint doesn't have its own NetFlow server. These are generally third-party, things. So NetFlow is just a protocol. It's like syslog. If you have a syslog server set, you can send the logs to somebody, and that syslog company could be SolarWinds or could be anybody. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go back here at 5:30 plus. Okay.
Sorry, a question came up. Can we limit it? For example, get some sample for NetFlow and send it to the NetFlow server?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah, can we get some samples for NetFlow from one interface and set it for NetFlow server? I think there is a way on the Cisco to do that.
No, you have to see NetFlow is like syslog. Okay, whatever you have here, you can basically send it to the next party. As simple as it. But here,
maybe that's make overload over the firewall. If we get some samples and then we'll send it for the NetFlow server. Is there any way we can make it in the checkpoint or not?
Generally, you have these NetFlow collectors, so you can have up to 3 collectors. You can add number 1, number 2, number 3. You can see it here, up to 3 collectors. So you can have 3 NetFlow collectors simultaneously. Basically, the traffic could be sent to them.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what it is. Now the time. Then you have the cloning group. If you want to clone this firewall, you can basically clone it, and a replica of this firewall will be basically created. You can generally do, when you have the configuration and the versions and everything else is same, the physical hardware is same, it actually makes sense to do that. You can just create a clone group and you can it will create a new firewall for you, kind of thing. SNMP, you have all the SNMP version 1, 2, 3. All those options are there depending on what you choose, and you can configure any of the version with the username, passwords, or the public key and private keys and communities and all that, which is available in version 1 and 2. The 3 has basically the encryption and username, password. So it totally depends, that you want to use this tool. It's optional, and you can basically configure your traps and other things. Once you have your SNMP server ready, you can send the traps. So these are more like the basic networking fundamental features which every platform has, nothing related to checkpoint. These are common these days. Every single router, every single switch, every single firewall has all these options. Okay. The next thing we have is a job scheduler. So if you have any kind of scheduler job, you want to execute a script, any command you want to run at certain time, you can actually schedule that particular task and it will do that. You can set daily, weekly, monthly, or every day at this time, every week on this particular day. Maybe you want to do it every Tuesday in the night, you want to take backup or something, you can actually, or there could be any kind of script basically. Case cleanup script or any kind of script. And when you do the scheduling job, do you want to send an email? So that is also possible. You can configure it that the backup for today is done, and all that can be basically done. And you can configure your checkpoint with mail server notification, which means if you want to get a notification related to SNMP trap as well, or any other activity that happens at multiple places, the mail server settings will be here, like you see in the scheduler, right? The email is being used to tell that scheduler has done its task or has executed the script and the task is done. But who's intimating it? The email is intimating it. Correct? Similar, so it will not be possible till the time you set up your SMTP server correctly. Right? So you have to set up your SMTP server correctly, and then only it will work. If you do not set these two things, email will not be able to go. Okay, if you have proxy, you must configure your proxy if you have it in your company. Why? Because otherwise your checkpoint will not be able to go to internet and will not be able to get relevant updates. Correct? So if you have already any proxy server in your company, make sure you configure your proxy server and the right port, whatever customized port you have for your proxy, so that your checkpoint can go to internet and get all updated stuff. This is your banners, general banners. When you telnet, SSH, banner of the day, message, or whatever thing you want to show on your login page, Display format, how you want your dates and other things to basically be shown up. Sessions, how many sessions do you want, and what is the timeout if somebody doesn't use your web UI or SSH for certain minutes. You can basically, in activity timeout, you can log them out. Core dump, what if your checkpoint crashes? At what location will you actually keep your core dumps, right? So this is the location, this is the directory files where you will keep your core dumps. If your checkpoint fails, it is going to write a dump about the process, right? About the process, that due to this particular process, the checkpoint actually failed to boot up or failed to perform the action. System configuration, again, you have an option. I told you that if you have less than 40 GB of space, it will move on to 32-bit. So, but if you want to shift at any time, you can shift yourself. So, IPv6 support, you turn on or turn off, it's up to you. You can configure syslog servers, and here you can just give your syslog server. And if you have any priority or you want to send certain messages only to this particular syslog server, you can do that. You can configure multiple syslog servers here, and you can add them, keep on adding them here. You know, for let's say severity number something, I'm configuring for warning, I'm configuring this. Then I can go for another one, because generally a huge number of data again comes on it. So for alert, I can configure another one. So different syslog servers, different priorities can be done. Network access, you want to enable telnet, you can enable, generally not recommended, do SSH. Host access, who from the outside world can access this firewall. Generally the option is by default any IP address. Because any IP address is given, that's the reason your telnet or SSH or HTTPS from anywhere in the world, you can do that to this particular checkpoint firewall. DHCP relay, right? This is what he was asking us that time, that what if I want to actually configure a helper address, or I want to configure a DHCP relay agent. So this is for DHCP relay agent, which is also known as helper address for DHCP. Remember that helper address can be for 100 things, but this is for DHCP, right? So this is DHCP relay agent. It will work like that. If you are running BGP as a protocol, you can configure your BGP. You can basically set your autonomous number and other things, and you can basically, your router ID and other parameters can all be, the AS numbers and everything else can be configured. Okay, all advanced features, even up to configurations, are there, and all your weight and MED and all those parameters are also there. So it's a full-fledged routing device. If you look at the kind of option, there are huge number of options, right? So it's a full-fledged device in itself. IGMP, guys, what is IGMP? Anybody can explain?
Because I suppose it's for multicasting.
Correct. Guys, I'm giving recording rights to more people at this time. So you can also start, although I'm recording it from beginning, and last 2 classes I have put it on the internet, you might have noticed. Day 1 and day 2 I have named it. Okay, so IGMP, the purpose of IGMP is basically that they will join the nearest router or the multicast device, and they will come to know that these are the other hosts available, or whatever subscription service you have available for your services. So I'll just give you one small example here. So in IGMP, what happens is, let's say this is your router. So on this network, there may be a lot of hosts, and this host may have some service. This host may have some service. This host may have some service. Okay, they can subscribe. They will come to know Internet Group Management Protocol, right? Basically, they will come to know about the subscription of these services, and if the router supports it further. So if you have a protocol like PIM and other protocols configured for multicasting, right? If you have any kind of multicasting protocol supported here like PIM and other protocols, right? You need some host joining protocol also, because somebody has to intimate the host and host has to join the nearest router. So the host protocol side is called IGMP, and the routing between two routers, the multicast routing, is basically known as PIM. Okay. So this is the difference between the routing protocol, multicast routing protocol, and this one. Guys, can you please mute yourself when you are not speaking? Okay, so guys, are you clear about it? This is the vague definition. This is the basic definition of PIM and IGMP. PIM is between router to router, routing protocol, multicast routing protocol. IGMP is host to the router. Right? So Internet Group Management Protocol allows host, remember that, host to find about the groups. And who carries the group information from one router to another? The routing protocols, multicast routing protocols like PIN. Okay. So this is another option we were talking about, helper address, helper broadcast address or IP broadcast helper. What is the purpose of this? You can configure in case you want to pass your, you want to basically go from one interface to another interface for broadcast traffic. By default, firewalls will drop it. Okay, let me put it, let's take here. So by default, routers will actually allow you, okay, depending on how is the configuration, and even routers will not allow you, right? So if you have FA00 and FA01 and you have 10.1.1.0 subnet and you have 10.1.1.2.0 subnet. Now, let's say if you want to receive or send any kind of broadcast out of this interface to maybe one of the hosts in this particular subnet, can you do that in the routers? If let's say my broadcast address is this, will I be able to receive those broadcasts on this interface here in this subnet?
No. No.
Right? Because by default, routers break broadcast domain. Correct? As simple as that. It's a basic fundamental. Routers by default will break broadcast domain. So how do you overcome if you have a situation where you have a lot of hosts here? These are your hosts, right? And these hosts need to take an IP address from this particular server, and he's my DHCP server in the company. Now, what do I do? Or maybe for any other service, I need broadcast update from this because DHCP is a broadcast updates. So how do I? So I will configure here IP helper address to reach here. Then the router will make an exception and will allow broadcast for this particular IP from this interface to this subnet. Correct? Otherwise, router will not, if this exception is not given, router will not allow any broadcast traffic from one interface to another because router breaks broadcast domains. By default, router will drop any broadcast not intended for this subnet. Guys, any confusion on this? Now, the difference between this is the DHCP relay agent is basically helper address service kind of thing for DHCP. But IP helper address can be used for 100 more activities in any type of scenario where you have any kind of broadcast server and these users need to subscribe to that broadcast service. You will use IP helper address with that particular code. So that's the difference between DHCP relay agent and helper address. Okay, so you can basically choose to broadcast the this thing, and also configure your helper IP helper address, the IP address and the interface through which it will pass, and the port number, because each service is different. So you may be broadcasting on UDP something, UDP port number something, so you have to give it. In DHCP real agent you don't have to, because the DHCP already knows that this helper address is for DHCP, but this could be for any customized application in your company. Right, and the beautiful thing is these definitions are really helpful. IP address helper address is a form of static addressing that uses directed broadcast to forward local and all net broadcast to desired destination with the network. Right, so these are really helpful. PIM. If you are running multicasting between checkpoint and any other gateway, by default we generally do not prefer on the firewalls, because it's not a great idea. But if you have next hop in your company, they are running multicast routing, you have multicast servers, video conferencing servers, or any other multicast application, your checkpoint needs to run multicast. In that case, you do have an option of running multicasting. So you can choose PIM, dense mode, sparse mode, or source specific mode. These are the three supported at this time. Routers do support more than these, but checkpoint at this time only support this. It's not important at this time to know what are these modes, because those are completely different training programs altogether. Okay, so those are the things. If you are not using PIM multicasting and you are using static multicast routes, so in that case you can use static multicast. So either you can use PIM dynamic routing protocol, or you can use static multicast routes. So both the options are absolutely fine. If you're running RIP or OSPF protocols, you can run it here. Most of the features are basically there, even up to the level of virtual interfaces and everything else. Authentication is supported, and virtual links and everything else is supported. So full advanced OSPF is possible here. Route aggregation. If you want to do summarization, you can do summarization. So that is also possible here. If I want to summarize certain subnet, and if it's a BGP, path summarization, you can choose BGP path summarization. Otherwise, it will become ordinary static summarization. Remember that all routing protocols do have summarization, but you can do without these. Also, you can do the summarization. So it's your choice. If you want to use summarization with some routing protocol, you have an option, right, with static, or you can use with OSPF, you can with RIP, BGP and all that. Those are options available to you. Let's do cancel, and then you can filter your routing protocols. You can create route filters for BGP, OSPF, RIP, EIGRP, etc. You can create for all of those. Redistribution, if you're redistributing from one routing protocol to another routing protocol, that is supported. On the checkpoint itself, generally we do all these activities on the routers, right? But if the circumstances arises, you do not have an edge router, you have just an edge firewall, and you want to do it on the firewall, that's absolutely fine, because all those options are basically available. If you want to give any kind of route maps, you want to configure advanced routing protocol based options, you have these options available. You can have policy based routing also, route maps and other options. I don't know what has happened. I believe I lost the access. Okay, it came. So if you have any kind of route discovery, you want to enable, you want to enable basically ICMP for any kind of path redirect and all that, you can basically choose to do that. Policy-based routing, route maps. You want to change any route to next hop, or you want to actually change anything. So basically, this is like your class maps and policy map. You can create a class map and you can create a policy map. So you create a class map, what to do, and you can then choose where to apply this, to which interface, etc. So that is also possible. If you're running routing protocols, you can see your routing table here. If you're right now, I have static. I don't have any routing protocol running, but you can see that these are basically the routing protocol. Only one route is active, which is toward the outside world, and the rest of these are local interfaces. They may or may not be active at this time. Okay, if you want to change your admin password, by default, you set your password at the time of installation. If you want to change it, you can change it. If you want to create more admins, or you want to create a monitoring role, you can basically create any role that you want to. Right now, 2 roles are there: admin and monitor. Okay, admin can do everything, monitor can't do except monitoring, and you can basically set other things also here. If you want to create more roles than admin and monitor, you can actually go here. Let's say I will call as a backup guy. This guy can only take backup. Okay, so I can basically go here, backup, and I will allow him to create backup properties here. So he can only do backup. Okay, so this is the role assigned. Read write I have assigned him, and I'll create the role as backup. You want to do that? Yes, I want to do that. So backup role is he can only do backup, nothing more than that. If you want to assign further commands to it, you have commands also can be assigned. These are the commands. He can run these view commands or the CLI commands for different purposes. This user can execute any of the commands. So customized roles are possible. Customized roles are possible. Once the role is there, then you can go back to user. Let's say I create a user called Vikas. Okay, and I assign him the new role, which is basically the backup role. So he will be backup role, and then we'll put a password for him. Basic password, and you can say okay.
Yeah, because here.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to integrate AD for authentication purpose?
Yes, we do. So here is our authentication servers. Not only AD, you have all options available here, including the radius and TACAS and all LDAP and everything else. Is basically possible.
So can we integrate Cisco ISE with checkpoint?
Absolutely, absolutely. Say Cisco ISE for just authentication. The checkpoint may not understand the REST authorization and accounting and other functions.
Okay.
So, but yes, you can use any platform which is Radius or TACAS. Even Active Directory is Radius and TACAS. You can basically do it here.
So basically, this role-based access, right? That is only possible for Cisco devices, not for checkpoint, is it? For checkpoint, we need to create the under rules. Under roles, right? User management roles. We need to specifically give one of those stuffs. Am I right?
No, it depends. So if you are integrating it with the, let's say, Active Directory kind of thing, you can get the role attributes from there also, because most of these are open standard based systems. So the some of the roles can be basically those attributes will accept it.
Okay.
Yeah, it does support. So almost all vendors have that. That's the reason these people use that Radius as an open standard, because then they can have those open standard things being accepted by it. Remember that Radius uses this authentication and authorization in a single packet. So it basically can take a role from there also. Radius is not about authentication. It's about authentication and authorization in a single packet. So Radius can support taking from ISE and other things, but you may not be able to do 100% of what Cisco devices can do with ISE. A lot of that you will not be able to, because it may not take all attributes from there. But authentication and authorization with certain privilege, I think it can do that.
Okay.
Okay, if you want to create some certain group for your users, you can actually do that, and you can put your users then into certain groups like admin groups and all those things. Okay, so you can give the property to the group. So this is your VRRP. If you are not using clustering, the other option, easy option you have generally is to enable VRRP. In that, put all your routers with the VRRP. It's like telling who will be, what is my VRRP ID and all that things, and then you have the backup devices also, the other devices in your network. So you can add them here. Or you can use a better option. The easy option is these days you can use clustering, but in case you do not have, clustering has a lot of limitations, right? The problem with clustering is that you need to have both the models as exactly same. Here in VRRP you don't have that because VRRP is open standard. So your one device can be checkpoint one model and the other device could be something else. It will still work. There is no problem with it. Okay, so that's a major difference between the clustering and VRRP. Once we do clustering, we'll see the CCP protocols and how it works and how to configure that.
Sorry, how about a different vendor?
No, you can't do it between different vendors. It will not make any sense.
Okay.
Okay, advanced features of VRRP, the timeout values and everything else. License, if you have license, it is telling you up to what date the license is available, and you can, if you have license key available, you can give your license here. You will have some key here, signature and the IP address that it was bound to and all those things. It will directly go to checkpoint, it will match with it, and it will. So here this spoof features is basically very important. Feature based licenses are also available. Okay, so you just purchase a URL license. So here you have to tell that my licenses, they will give you SKU number basically. This is like the SKU number, which is more like a unit number for the certain device. So it will tell you for this device, this feature is enabled. Okay, so you have full license you have the feature based licenses also. So depending on what package you have bought, and then they will provide you a signature key, and also you have to tell that what was the management IP at the time of when you wanted this license to be created, because generally it happens on their website. So the other option I click here is Checkpoint User Center, and it will take me to Checkpoint website, which basically that's where I will have to log in and find all this information. Okay, so if I'll just try to log in here to see if it is fine. Oh, username is email. I'll just show you because I had a couple of licenses that I purchased for R77 at the time. I think it's not working. So if it's working, basically what will happen is I will be able to see all my licenses, their status, that it has expired, and the keys, if I still want to use the old stuff and all that, I'll be able to see that. So once I copy it from there, I put it here, license will be activated, and it will show me the activation status of it. Okay, creation of an additional image will require 5.88 gig. The amount of space available for this right now is this. So if you want to take a snapshot of your configuration, right now, whatever has been configured, you can do that. It is going to require this much of space as it is visible here. This is a kind of a configuration snapshot. Then you can, at any point of time in the future, you have any kind of failure or something, you can import from that particular thing. You can, once you create a snapshot, you can export to outside world also, so that if your checkpoint ever fails, you can recover using that import function. You can import it from the server that you have, Maybe it's locally in your desktop or somewhere you saved it. So you can just import your configuration, this snapshot, full configuration back. Okay. That snapshot, this is backup. So you can actually back up the whole device. Okay. So, or rather I'm saying opposite. So this is more like configuration backup, and that is like a system backup. So this is a system snapshot, which will be basically 6 gig kind of thing. And this is more like your configuration backup. You can, at any point of time, you can back up, you can back it up on the external devices, SCP server, whatever protocol you are using, FTP, TFTP. You have your own checkpoint management server on this appliance itself. You want to back it up, it's absolutely fine.
Vikas, one quick question here. So this backup, right? So this is only for the
configuration.
Okay.
This is for configuration. That is for the whole checkpoint snapshot.
Oh no. Snapshot is like it will take backup of all the rules and NAT rules and policies, right?
Absolutely correct.
And this one is like only system related configurations like NTP, routing protocol, interface, IP address, like that.
Correct.
Okay. So if I take this system backup, right? I can take in either standby or active firewall, any firewall, right?
No, you have to take on each individual device, because every device, even you are a backup, your IPs are different, right? You may have a virtual IP which is same, but your own IP configuration will be different. So every device backup needs to be there.
Okay.
If you have 14 devices in your company, you have to take 14 devices backup. That's the reason there's a, that's all automated or scheduled backups are there. You just put a date, it keeps on happening. On this particular day in the week or month, your backup will keep on happening.
Okay.
So how about the HA? Do we need for the active and standby one?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's basically in spite or despite of what is the status of the device. Are you into clustering or are you into something else? It doesn't matter. You have to take backup of the individual device.
Okay.
See, I may be participating in part of cluster or HA, but the thing is, my configuration is still separate from the main device, from the primary device. See, primary device has primary configuration, secondary device has secondary configuration. But that is a different configuration from the primary device. Some configuration may be sync, like ARC table, NAT table, firewall state tables and everything else. It will be synchronized. But the interface information of both the devices are different. My IPs are different, your IPs are different. Yes, we are sharing the interface with the virtual IP, but actually our IPs are different. Correct?
Okay, thank you.
So the next one we have is to download our Smart Console software. We can download our Smart Console directly from here. If you want to reboot or you want to shut down, you can reboot or shut down from here. And if you want to upgrade, you can basically upgrade from this particular place. So if you have IPS signatures, firewall signatures, any other kind of stuff, you need to have username, password, or a downloaded configuration, either of those. If I say check, it means it's expecting me that I have username, password of the checkpoint login should be present on this. Okay, if I don't have, I will not be able to get anything new. The second method people use is they don't put username, password here. They actually download it from going to the checkpoint firewall, that place. They basically download it here and then they import it. So that is another option that we have. If you're searching for any specific package, you can basically search it here. But again, it will require your username and password. So here, how often do you want to download updates is up to you. If you do not want it to be doing it on daily basis, or you want it periodic, you can basically set your policies like this. So all these parameters that we basically discussed are local to this gateway, has nothing to do with any other gateway, whether it's in clustering, no matter what it is local to this device. The interface is local to the device, routes, the routing table of this device, of this particular gateway, it's like an individual router, right? So this is what is about the individual gateway. It's not about, even if you're in clustering, your backup needs to be locally with you, because if you fail, you cannot copy the configuration of the primary device here, because you may get a lot of sync information and all that, but not your physical IP interfaces and all those things. Guys, any question on this? All these parameters. This is what is an ordinary router has. Now, the beautiful thing I'll tell you about this is, no matter what platform you're using, are you using Palo Alto, or are you using Cisco FTD, you're using Checkpoint or Fortinet or any other platform, these parameters are going to be exactly same. 90% of the features are going to be exactly same. These are all individual features of that particular device. All vendors have it. Where's the difference? The difference is here. When you do these policies, how do you apply those policies, etc.? The real difference comes here. Let me see what happened to our gateway. I lost the gateway access. I think we may have to reinstall our smart console again, because it was giving us error. In the meantime, I'll try to bring another gateway. We'll go to our checkpoint first. CP1. Let's see if CP1 has. So this was CP1, so I have to go to CP2. Okay, it has come. So we'll go to our smart console again. CP1, open server, 10.4.12.101. Checkpoint console has experienced serious problem, must be closed immediately for this. Okay. So I think our smart console has got corrupted because we changed the IP address of the smart console. Now, smart console is the boss, is the management server. If we play anything with it, it is not going to accept it because it has to be secure. So if we play with the integrity of the platform, it will create problem. Let's see if we can resolve it. If not, we have to reinstall it. Smart console server is not visible. If the server is not visible, in that case, we are going to have some problems. CP1, 10.4.12.101. Okay, open. Couldn't find, could not access file for write operation. Failed to save object CP1. Could not access file for write operation. I think rather than this, I think the gateways are fine. The only problem that we have is with the smart console. So what I'll do quickly is I'll go and install another smart console, power it off, and we'll remove it because it has a lot of processing and a lot of resources. Delete from the disk. Create a new VM. SMC Smart Console. One interface is enough because it is Smart Console, so we don't require many interfaces. We will edit this machine, minimum 8 gig. I'll assign it 8 gig and 2 because we have resources today, 128 GB of RAM. So we can do that. We have 24 processors available. There is the Smart SMC and the image. Here is our checkpoint image, connected power on. Okay, it's not powered on. So once I start installation, I'll go back to do the NAT. We will do the theory of the NAT, and then we will basically, by then the installation will be complete. Then we'll do the rest of the stuff.
Because
Yes.
yeah, before proceeding with that, can you just clarify this one once again? Because I just have a question. I mean, can you just explain the difference between that DHCP relay agent and the helper address?
Yes, I'll do that.
So yeah.
Right, I'll just do that. I'll just start this process so that it starts copying the files, and then we'll start.
And hello.
Yes.
Yeah, one more thing. Like, are we going to use the same meeting ID for the upcoming classes?
Yes. The meeting ID now is going to be same.
Okay. I was not aware of that, and I was waiting for the updated meeting ID.
Okay. So you can join us in the WhatsApp group that I have shared today.
Okay.
Yeah, and we generally have any question, we put it in the WhatsApp group. It will be easy for me also to actually, update anything on the WhatsApp group, and I can answer single time in WhatsApp group.
Unfortunately, I don't use WhatsApp, so.
Oh, you don't.
I hate it. Yeah.
Okay.
Fine. So yeah, I just want to confirm you that because next class I can directly log on to that meeting ID, right? That same AM.
Correct. You can do that. Yes. Okay, so installation is going on, and now we'll go back to your question here, which is the difference between DHCP relay agent and the IP helper address. So I'll just make it very simple to understand DHCP relay agent and IP helper address. Both technologies are exactly same, except that IP helper address is not bound only to DHCP. It can be used for any application. Okay, while DHCP relay agent is IP helper address only for DHCP. This is the major difference between both. Okay, so DHCP relay agent is basically will rely on IP helper address for DHCP purpose, but here IP helper address can be used for any application, any kind of broadcast traffic. Let's say in your company you have any customized application working on some broadcast mechanism. Okay, so for that you can basically utilize the IP helper address, because DHCP relay agent will not be able to help you in that case. That's the reason in the checkpoint they have created two options. You can have DHCP relay agent, or you can have, for customized applications you can have IP helper address. The purpose is exactly same as I told you before, that the router by default will not allow one router interface broadcast from here to go to any other subnet, because router breaks the broadcast subnet. Router breaks broadcast subnet, switches break collision domains, right? Broadcast domain and collision domains. So it will not allow from segment A any broadcast to go to B without some kind of helper address. In case of DHCP, we call it DHCP relay agent, which uses an IP helper address for the purpose of DHCP relay, which means you just configure here the entry for, let's say your server is basically, this is your server 192.168.1.1. Now, when the traffic comes as a broadcast, when the host here, they actually do a broadcast request for DHCP asking for the IP address from it, the router by default will drop it. But if you have created an exception using the DHCP relay agent, it will permit you. Similarly, for any other application other than DHCP, if you want to create an exception, you have to create IP helper address for that particular port, a broadcast on certain port. So that is the main difference. They are exactly same, but their purpose is different. Guys, any other question we have?
I got it.
Okay, so now we'll move on to NAT, because the smart console installation is going on. So we will try to do as much theory possible for NAT. So what happens in NAT is that NAT is the most important component. You just saw the power of NAT. Sitting anywhere in the internet, you are able to telnet to fiber.networkershome.com to the gateway or the smart console.com, port number 2222, and as soon as you SSH to this, what happens? You all are actually able to access the firewall. Using one single translation, hundreds of people will be able to access a resource. Okay, so that is the power of NAT. You can access all these resources with one single IP. Actually, we have one public IP. We actually keep on playing with this IP. If you look at it, my RDP machine right now is, you see it here, is fiber.networkershome.com. If I want to, I'll just show you again. If I want to do RDP, I use different port numbers on the same. So fiber.networkershome.com, that's the same thing that you guys are using to do SSH. I'm using to do the RDP. And I'm also using it for 100 more purposes. For my company router, this was, if you look at it, fiber.networkershome.com, because I have only one public IP. Public IPs are expensive. Okay. They don't give you public IP without you explaining the purpose of why you want to have a public IP, etc. So in real world, it has great advantages because you can go to internet and internet people can come to you. Okay. So there are a couple of type of NATs which are there. So we have NAT types. Yeah, I'll remove this here. Sorry. I'll remove it. So the type 1 we have is dynamic NAT. Okay. Dynamic PAT, static NAT, static PAT. Okay. And then there are port redirection, and there are different names given to different technologies, but this is majorly being used in the market. This is what is heavily used. Okay, so we will look at all these scenarios. So let's say the number one case is dynamic NAT. So whenever we say NAT, that basically means that you have one IP on the outside and one IP on the inside. So let's say you have a server here, okay, which is 10.1.1.100. It needs to go to internet, and you have a public IP available for this as 17.17.17.1. So what will you do? You will do a NAT for this. Now you can do two kind of NAT. Okay, you can do dynamic NAT and you can do static NAT. When you do dynamic NAT, right? When you do dynamic NAT, generally you can go out. It's not bidirectional. You can go out, but the users using this IP will not be able to come in. Okay. The other problem with dynamic NAT is that you can, in dynamic NAT, you can have, in static NAT also you can have it, you can have a pool defined for it, which means if you have certain hosts, let's say I'll give you some examples here, 17 dot maybe 20 to 25, these are the hosts, and you have 10.1.1.100 to 105. So these inside hosts, when they will try to go out using dynamic NAT, right? Generally, there is no guarantee who will get what. Maybe 105 comes first and he takes 20. Okay, 104 comes and he takes 25. It totally depends, you know. So there is no guarantee in dynamic NAT who will get what. In static NAT, mostly it's one-on-one translation. Dynamic NAT also, it's a kind of one-on-one translation, but there's no guarantee who will get what. In static NAT, generally what happens is that you will have first IP going to and taking the first IP, the second guy also takes the second IP. We generally don't do subnet to subnet. Very rarely we do subnet to subnet. It doesn't make much sense also. We generally use one-on-one translation. Okay. So dynamic NAT is when you have one directional traffic which is inside to outside, and you do not want to have a mapping on binding. So when you can go to internet. See, netting is about two-way process, right? So if you have static NAT, what will happen is not only that you can go out to the internet, the people using this particular IP can also come to you. Like I have just given you an example that my checkpoint firewall at this time is 172.16.2.30. But what IP are you using? You are using some public IP which is basically DNS map to fiber.networkers.home.com. Right? So when you are telnetting to this or SSHing into it, where are you landing? You are actually landing to this one. Why is that? Because it's a static translation. It's a static one-on-one translation. When you are SSHing to it, you are basically, this is just a public IP. You are actually landing here. Okay. So what is the purpose of static NAT? Static NAT is one-on-one translation. One IP to one IP. Dynamic is also one-to-one, but it's not a two-way process. It's a one-way process. Okay, guys, any question or any doubt on this? Dynamic and static NAT both can be one-to-one, a host to host, or a subnet to subnet. The challenge, okay, is that it could be 1 to 1 or 100 to 100. That means you need 100 public IPs for 100 internal hosts, 10 public IPs for 10 internal hosts. You cannot have 9 people mapped to 10. Okay. Now the challenge in your company is, let's say if you have 10 addresses, what happens if those 10 IPs are used? 10 people, 10 servers or 10 people in your company were going to internet. You had 10 public IPs. Okay. 10 public IPs are being used. What do? That means only first 10 people can go to internet. Correct. Well, there are two solutions for this situation. The solution one is that you can have basically more addresses here. The second is you can have PAT here, which means one public IP to many people. But the problem with them is that they can just go out, they cannot come, or they can go out, they can come back, but nobody can use these servers because they do not have one-on-one mapping. Okay, so this is a challenge that you have. If you do not have enough IPs, generally we use limited. Wherever you have servers which need to be accessed from outside, we use one-on-one mapping, which is very expensive. Each public IP will cost you money. Otherwise, you will generally use patting. In small companies, we use patting. Two pattings are there: dynamic pat and static pat. Guys, any doubt or confusion on dynamic NAT and static NAT? You can ask me a question on this. Okay, so dynamic NAT and static NAT. The next one you have is dynamic PAT.
Any example about this dynamic NAT? Like, what is the purpose this can be used for?
The purpose is same, that let's say you want to go to internet and there is no specific requirement that which host should get what IP. All your purpose is that 10 people in the company want to get go to internet using 10 IPs, so you put them in a dynamic pool. First guy gets the first IP, second guy gets the second IP, third guy gets the third IP. When the third person is not using it, that IP is released, and the next person comes in, that IP is given to him. But there is no one-on-one translation for those people. Today, I may get first IP from the pool. Tomorrow, I may not get the same IP.
But in this way, the outside world will not be able to access the inside world, right?
Absolutely. So that's the reason in dynamic NAT, there is no surety, because nobody knows your permanent IP, because they are not sure. Today, your IP is this, tomorrow, your IP can change.
So if we have a couple of servers services, so
Yes.
can we use this in that way? Like
yeah, so you have to use static NAT for that, because static NAT is about one-on-one translation. It never changes.
No, my question is, like, I have say 10 SMTP servers, and those
Okay.
are talking to 10 public IPs in dynamic NAT, and so from the outside world, that all 10 are in cluster. So from outside world, can the people can access any of them over any of the IP?
No, that's the thing. They will not be able to, because they are not sure which server has got what IP. Because
Right.
from this particular pool, you will get different IPs. You have 10 IPs. So you don't know server 1 will get today this IP, 2 may get something else. Anybody who comes first picks up the first IP.
Got it. Thank you.
In dynamic, there is no guarantee. But if you had static, the static, what it will do is the first IP, first person coming, okay, will be basically given to first, and it will always be same. It will be basically, or basically what happens is, let me put a pool on pool. So 10.1.1.10 to 15. Okay, and maybe the public IP for this is 17.17.17.10 to 15. In static, what will happen is that this 10 to 10 mapping will be there. Even if you're using it or not using it, it will not matter. So your IP will always stay same. Okay. Even 10 never comes up. The 10 will not be given to the first IP, will be reserved for him. Because in static, the translations are created even before the user comes in. Okay, it's like cinema ticket hall. Your ticket has your number. So even if you don't come, nobody is allowed to sit on that particular seat. Okay, because the ticket is reserved on him. They will sit on their seat. In dynamic, what will happen is anybody comes first, come first serve, they will get the first pool, first IP from the pool.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so that's the reason dynamic NAT is not very preferred mechanism. We generally prefer static NAT. If you have so many IPs, why don't you use an IP which is always same? You know, let's take a case of if the fiber.networkershome.com, the IP keeps on changing, I will have to use DDNS or some other mechanism to keep track of it, because otherwise my daily, the whole thing will keep on breaking. Because we have purchased a public IP, the IP remains always same. I know, and I mapped it to fiber.networkershome as a DNS entry. It is easy to remember for me. The IP is never changing, the DNS never changing, so it's very easy for me. So this is about the dynamic NAT. The next thing we have is dynamic PAT. In dynamic PAT, what happens is, let's say you have a huge number of users who want to go to internet, but you have limited IP addresses. Maybe you have 10,000 users and you have only one public IP. What do? You do PAT. These 10,000 users will go to internet using a single IP, but they will be all mapped to a port. So I'll just give you an example. Let's say the public IP that you have is this. Okay, the first user that comes, he probably, let's say, uses a port number, let's say 10,000. The second one comes, he uses same IP and he uses 10,002. Okay. The third comes in, and the process keeps on repeating. Now, when the traffic returns, so let's say this guy is, so from inside subnet, maybe the inside guy was 10.1.1.100. And this guy, when, sorry, guys, give me a minute, please. Okay, sorry guys. So, so what happens is that you have second IP here, which is your internal IP of, let's say, 10.1.1.101. Okay, guys, give me a second. I think somebody is not able to connect, so I have to send him this thing here. Okay, so okay, guys. So what happens is that you have inside IP this guy. When he try to go to internet, he picks up this IP address and try to go to internet using this particular port. In the firewall, this entry will be created. Okay, the second user from the inside 10,000 users, the second user comes in. He again uses the same public IP, but he uses this port, this as a source port. Now, what happens with this is that your firewall has a unique mapping. When, let's say, you are both going to yahoo.com or google.com, right? You both are going to google.com. what happens is when the traffic for this particular user going to use, that google.com, when it returns on this particular port. Firewall knows that this guy is mapped to this, so firewall will basically send the traffic back to this guy. Correct? So this is how the communication happens. All internal users will be mapped to single IP. The only differentiation will be they will be mapped. There will be a port basically which will keep a tracking of this. Just give me a second, please. Okay, guys. So any question on the dynamic pat, guys? This is called dynamic pat. Okay, this scenario is called dynamic pat. Why is it called dynamic? Because I'm going to discuss static pat also after this. In dynamic pat, what happens is that there are two things happening. One is that you are going from inside to the outside world. That's one of the things happening. The second thing that is happening is these ports are random ports. You do not get a fixed ports each time. Okay, there is no guarantee that you are going to get 10,001 always. So the user, if ever wants to come to you, cannot come. In this, it's a one-way traffic. In static pat also, it's one-way traffic, by the way. Okay, you cannot have two-way in static pat also. In dynamic pat also, you have one-way traffic. Static pat also, you have one-way traffic. The only difference you have is that you always have here random ports created, and this is fixed ports created. Okay, I will give you just a live example of how am I converting or connecting you guys to this particular machine, the checkpoint that I have. Okay, so I'll just pick up the live scenario and the live IP here. This is my public IP. Okay, this is my public IP. If you guys telnet to this or SSH to this, why don't you guys try that? Try to do SSH on this public IP. It is actually exactly same thing because it has a DNS name to it. So it's called fiber.networkershome.com. Port number 2222. Same thing. If you SSH on this particular IP, where are you landing? You are actually landing at a fixed address on my firewall at 172.16.2.30, which is public IP of my firewall, or the internally I'm calling it public, but it's a private IP in my company. Okay, so you are landing at this particular port, SSH port number 22. Guys, any confusion, any doubt that we have on this? Dynamic pat and static pat. Guys, anybody has a doubt or confusion on this? So this is actually, now what is the benefit? You see the benefit that I have, right? Using one single public IP, I have a test machine here that I'm able to do RDP. How is that I'm doing? Okay, let me show you here. So I'll just remove it. Using the same public IP again, which is 43.224.156.18, right? When I do 3389, which is RDP, I'm actually landing at a local machine in my network here, something like this. Port number 3389, which is RDP. What is the IP change? No, the IP did not change. So using this technology, I can have 65,000 devices can be accessed theoretically. Okay, with one public IP, I am actually able to access all my resources in the company by multiplexing them on different ports. Because I do not have multiple public IPs. So what do? I have to use same IP for all this stuff. Right? Static PAT allows me to come from outside to inside. Dynamic net allows me to go from inside to outside. That's a difference. It's a one-way communication. Remember that. You can come back in, but the host cannot go out using this method. Same thing is you can go out, but you cannot come in using this method. It's one way. Both are one way. Okay, let me give you one example here. I'm going to close this machine and I'll go to RDP here again. I am now going to do RDP to fiber.networkershome.com. It's a test machine on the same VM network where we are installing our stuff. I'll go here. Okay, and I will just show you that I have used the public IP, right? Fiber.networkershome.com, but I'll show you what exactly is the IP, sorry. What is the internal IP for this machine so that you have an idea. IP config. Here it is, the IP of this machine is 172.16.2.80. The internal IP of this machine is 172.16.2.80. But sitting anywhere on the internet, I'm able to access this machine with just one public IP. I'm accessing hundreds of my resources because I'm using static PAT for it. When you add static NAT and static PAT, your machine can go out also. So I'll give you this example. If I do YouTube here, I can go to internet because I have mixed static NAT and PAT both. Using dynamic NAT. I'm using dynamic NAT here and dynamic PAT. With the dynamic NAT, I'm able to go to internet, and with static PAT, you are able to come to the machine. Guys, any confusion or doubt on this? These are one-way technologies. Remember that it's a one-way technology. You can use this, people can use this port and they can come to the machine. The machine cannot go to internet. To go to internet, the machine need to use some other mechanism, which could be you have to mix and match anything, dynamic NAT or dynamic PAT or static NAT or static PAT. Anything you have to add, mix to it for you to go out. Two technologies have to be mixed together. Maybe I can mix this because this allows me to go out, inside to outside. This allows me to outside to inside. In that case, it's absolutely fine. I can go to internet and I can do my function, but they are different ports. I'm going to use these ports to go out and these ports to come back in. Guys, any doubt, any confusion on this? Any other
There's
question?
a question about the static NAT. I think you needed a one configuration. That will be a two-way, am I right?
No, I didn't get it. Can you say that again?
Yeah. If I configure static NAT,
that
means two-way communication. I don't need it to do dynamic path to going outside.
Yes, absolutely. In dynamic NAT and dynamic PAT, you don't require this thing, but in dynamic NAT, it's a one-way. In static NAT, it's a two-way.
Okay, thank you.
But PAT is always one-way. Okay, PAT is always, see, the dynamic NAT also is two-way, right? Let me give you one example. Dynamic NAT or static NAT. It is a two-way kind of thing, but the problem with dynamic NAT is you are not sure what IP from the pool are you going to get next time. And that's the reason when your IP keeps on changing, the other side, think about it, yahoo.com, they have a mapping of certain IP to yahoo.com and that keeps on changing. So you have to basically remember different names to access that. In static, what happens is, static, the IP translation always is fixed for one IP. It's a one-on-one. Even if I'm using it or not using it, the IP doesn't change. Okay, so I think you're confused on that. I'll just try to revise those two concepts again. So what will happen in dynamic NAT? In dynamic NAT scenario, you have an IP 10.1.1.100 to 105. This is your pool. Your public pool is 17.17.17.10. So 100, let's say 100 to 105, correct? The first IP maybe from this pool comes out is 104. Okay, because he's accessing the internet. See, there's no such formula that why 100 is not coming first or 100. Any IP, any host out of these 6 hosts can start accessing internet. So maybe 104 comes in. Okay, first IP is 104. What will happen with 104? Actually, he will get 17.17.17.100 IP. He will get first IP from the pool. Let's say the next IP you get is 103 maybe here. What IP are you going to get? 17.17.17.101. Let's say you get 100 only now. What do you get? You get 17.17.17.102. You get probably 102, right? So what do you get? You get next IP address available in the pool, right? In dynamic NAT, this is how it's going to happen. If it was a static NAT, the story will be very different. Okay, 5 IPs or 6 IPs mapped to 6 IPs, straight one-on-one, which means that your 10.1.1.100 is actually mapped to 17.17.17.17. 17.17.17.100. You use it or you not, this IP will not be given to anybody. First IP will be mapped to first IP, static NAT. Second IP will be mapped to second IP. Even if the third IP comes first, even if 103 comes first, it will actually go to 103. 101 will go to 101. 102 will go to 102. 103 will go to 103. 104 will go to 10. Okay, now let's turn around this situation with different IP set to make it a little complicated to understand. In the case of static NAT. Okay, so let's say your public range is something like this, 16 to 20. Okay, and your private range was this, and the public range is this. Let's say 484 or 83, whatever exact IP is, correct? So what will happen in this case? What will happen in this case? 20 will go to the first IP, 80. 21, so let me put 20 goes there. 21 comes to 81. 22 goes to 82. 23 goes to 83. Something like this. What if at any point of time 22 is first or last or whatever? If 23 comes, what happens with the 103 here? He gets this IP. But here what happens with this? They will always get straight away mapped IP. Why? Because in static NAT, the mapping happens even before the traffic comes. I gave you the example of the cinema. Even if you come late, you have your ticket, because you have a ticket for certain seat number, you will sit on that seat. In buses, it doesn't happen like that. In buses, first comes first serve basis. You have to stand if you do not have, in buses, there is nothing called ticket number. Right? So if you go on local bus, you basically land up there late, you may not get seat. Exactly same situation here. In static NAT, you have a fixed seat because you have one-on-one translation. Dynamic NAT, the seats are equal, but there's no guarantee who will get what seat. It's first come, first serve basis. With that, what will happen is you will never be able to tell your customers on the internet that tomorrow my IP is going to be this, because you are not sure. Guys, any confusion, any doubt on this? I don't know what has happened to this. Anybody has a confusion, please let me know. Okay, so guys, are you clear about static NAT, dynamic NAT, static PAT, and dynamic PAT?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, the next concept we have is a manual NAT and auto NAT. Okay, in auto NAT, what happens is you basically have, so these are like checkpoint terms, and most of the firewalls also these days you have this mechanism. In auto NAT, is pretty simple. The natting has to be done straight at the source. So let's say if you have this, yesterday you might have noticed I just mapped it to this, or whatever IP, public IP. You just go on the source object and you create the object and NAT it straight away here. Okay, it's a one-on-one natting. In this, you have two mechanisms. In both, you have two mechanisms. You have static here, and you also have a static mechanism. Okay, so you can just map it based on this particular source itself. You can apply based on source. What if you have a destination-based NAT, or based on scenario you want to NAT something? In that case, you have to do manual NAT, which means you NAT based on whatever scenario you have. In auto NAT, what will happen is two entries will be created for you, the in and out. Okay, so source translation and destination, when the source get translated to the outside world, and when the traffic returns back, the destination has to get translated back to the host again. Now, let me show you here how it works. So let's say we have internet here. There is a host on inside 10.1.1.100, and there you have 17.17.17.1. Okay, first entry is that you want to go out, so you do a NAT entry here. That is absolutely fine. What if this traffic want to return back? It needs to get translated. So there will be a second entry again for this particular host to come back. So this is basically, let's say we have this as source. Source being translated, again, this goes as source. The other thing is that this guy actually becomes 17.17.17.100. He becomes source and he becomes destination. Now you have to tell me why is it? Why two-time translations are basically required. In Cisco routers, you have the inside local, outside local, inside global, outside global, right? You might have seen that. Here we have something like this.
It's just 17.17.17.100. What's the source? I think if we have a source is 10, should be the 17.17 is destination.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. So why is that these two translations are required?
But in Cisco router, we have to make only one entry to make a NAT for any incoming host to the outside host.
Correct, correct. So, but if you look at the NAT table, two entries are created. You create one because dual entries are created there. You are creating one entry, but dual entries are created for that because Cisco does it for you. Because it's a two-way NAT. Both the dynamic and static NATs are two-way NAT. Show translations, right? Show NAT. Which platform is this? I'll just show you on a Cisco device. Show IP NAT translations, correct? IP NAT. So here it is. You see that? There are two entries basically there on Cisco devices. I'll just make it a little bigger for you. Inside local, right? Outside local, inside global, outside global. Correct, because for return traffic also there is an entry required. In Cisco platform, what happens is in a NAT, right? It will do on its own. It will create an entry for coming back on its own, but it will show you here. Correct. Let me give you another example about the same. Think about it. Now you have this guy going to internet, right? So he will be source and the source will be translated. So you are going to google.com. Does the source changes? Yes. Right? So is it the source translation or destination translation? It's a source translation, right? Because this was the source. This guy, this machine, this PC, he wanted to go to internet. He requires public IP, replacing his IP. So that source will be changed. Does the destination changes? Is your destination changing? No. Do you want to NAT for google.com? No. Google is never going to change. You got to change. Your source IP will get changed with this. Correct? But if somebody accesses you from internet, are you source or destination? Are you the source or the destination? You are basically
Destination.
Destination, correct? So you will be destination. So there will be an entry required for that. Generally, all platforms will do it for you. That's what AutoNet will do it for you. AutoNet will do it for you. Okay. AutoNet will do 2 entries for you. The source translation and once you are destination, so that people can come from outside to you. Right? In that case, it will be for those hosts, what it is going to be, a destination change, because they are now coming, hitting your public IP, but your destination is changing to this IP so that they can access you from the internet. This is your router is doing it. They are accessing this. They don't know that you are mapped to this. It is your router will translate you to here so that they can access this resource thinking he is this public resource. So as soon as you do AutoNet, what will happen? You will have 2 entries. Like Cisco routers, you do 1 entry, 2 entries will be created for you. Correct? So this is how you do 1 entry and the 2 entries will be basically created for you. If you see that any real translation here, you will actually see that the traffic which is coming back from outside should be 3.25, 3.10, 2.80, 3389. Okay, this could be, this is the same machine that I have. This is the internet machine that I have. One is the machine is going to outside world. The second is when the outside world is coming back to machine. Okay, I am doing RDP to that machine. That means I am coming from outside world, but I don't know that this is the private IP of that. What is that I am accessing? I'm accessing the outside IP of this guy, this IP. I don't know what is the inside IP translation of this. Okay, similarly, to go to the outside world, this machine is using some random source ports, and that's the reason I was telling static PAT is only one-way translation, because all PATs are one-way translation. All PATs are one-way, but NAT is always two-way translation. Okay, so in AutoNet, what will happen? 2 entries will be created for you dynamically. You don't have to do anything; it will happen on its own. If you do manual NAT, you have to do both entries on your own, yourself, which makes it very complicated to do. Because then you have to come from destination to, if you want one-way translation, what is your best way? Manual NAT. If you want two-way, AutoNet. Both will support the static and dynamic option. Okay, both will support the static and dynamic option. Any policy-based netting can be only done with manual NAT because AutoNet only works on source translation. Correct? It can be only applied at source, cannot be applied at destination. Right? But it does create 2 entries. But you cannot modify that because that happens automated. You don't have to do anything with it. Yesterday we did an example of when we wanted to get through the firewall, we saw one example like that. Okay, guys, any confusion on this manual NAT and AutoNet? AutoNet can be done at source and destination both. Sorry, manual NAT can be done source and destination both. 2 entries manually you have to create. AutoNet, just pick the NAT entry, source and destination at the same place. Rest of everything automation, the whole automation thing will happen on its own, and you don't have to worry about any configuration mistakes. Generally, 99% of people use it and it works. AutoNet supports static NAT also, so you can have one-on-one translation. Otherwise, you can have dynamic translation. AutoNet does support AutoPAT, so it does support PAT and dynamic translation. Dynamic and static translation. It supports both static NAT and all that. Manual NAT will not support anything dynamic, it will support static NAT or static PAT. Okay, static PAT or static NAT. This is what will be supported by manual NAT. You have to create all entries. Generally, it's very complicated to see the source and destination coming, and especially on the checkpoint syntax. The syntax is a little confusing there. But when you get confused, you do one-time auto NAT and see the entries, and then you can basically follow the manual NAT based on that. That's what people do. Static PAT can be only done with manual NAT option. Yeah, so that's all about. Now the static PAT is also known as port redirection. So static PAT is also known as port redirection. There are multiple names to it. Port translation, port redirection, static PAT. There are a couple of more names to it. So this is what is the same technology. Exactly same technology that I'm using right now. I have just showed you here. All these are the entries that we have here. Single public IP is being translated for hundreds of applications, and you can check the speed also. It's all beautiful. Right now I'm using this machine. Okay, and he's using the same static translation. Let's see our smart console now, if it is there. 172.16 2 dot, I think it was 20. Okay, let's see. Show configuration. Guys, please join. Everybody join the WhatsApp group, the number that I have given you, so that you have all the updates, because I'm going to put the server information on the WhatsApp itself, so that you can start accessing these firewalls and other things once it is ready today itself. 10/4/12/20. That's right.
Can you please share the number again? I joined late.
Okay, I'll just do that. So it's in the chat window. I'll just put it again. So this is Mr. Bala. He is the admin head for this. He will add everybody. Every day I put the meeting ID also. The meeting ID for all the classes is going to be same. It will not change in all the future classes. Okay, I have also posted both the recordings in this folder. You can see it here. Day 1 and day 2. So this is day 1, and this is, there was another one, day 2. And there is a background music coming from somebody. Can you please mute? Here is the day 2. Background noise from here. Okay. Okay, so the recordings and the book is also there. Okay, guys, any confusion on any of these topics?
Vikas, Ratnan, yeah. One quick, like clarification. So, like manual NAT, right? So it is in Cisco terms. We call, I mean, with accordance to the ASA, can call the manual NAT as twice NAT, right?
No, twice NAT is different. So twice NAT is one of the manual NAT mechanisms. Twice NAT, destination NATs, these are all different terms for different kind of NATs.
Okay.
It totally depends. There is something called policy NAT. There's something called twice NAT. So it depends on what is the situation, but the method being used is manual NAT, because manual NAT only gives you option to do source and destination both, or either one of those. The AutoNet will not give us an option based on policy or destination.
Yeah, see, AutoNet is something similar to object-based NAT, right?
Which NAT, sorry?
The object-based NAT.
Correct.
So it is exactly like the object-based NAT, where you cannot call an ACL or something like that.
Correct. Absolutely.
So, like here, manual NAT is something similar to like twice NAT, but we have additional features. That's what we are trying to tell.
No, Cisco has more additional features than this.
Okay.
Yeah. There you have more options. There you have more policy with ACLs and all that. I don't think so with ACL and all that we can do it here, like we do policy NAT and all that. Here we have very simple natting scenarios where you can do source-based natting or destination-based natting. Okay, while it's coming up.
To do the practical now?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to see if the SMC, the controller, comes up. We will do a couple of labs of the netting. Today I've installed on this server and this machine. So I'll just tell you the topology in the meantime while the installation is going on. This is, I have a checkpoint firewall 1, CP1, CP2. These are two gateways distributed. This is the controller. Some issue was there, so I've reinstalled it. The machine that I'm using right now, RDP, is this machine, Windows 7 machine. So the one that I'm using to connect to the checkpoint environment is this testing machine. Okay, and it's a real case study of the natting that we are studying. So different type of NAT is being used to basically reach to this topology using RDP to this machine. It's all actually, there is nothing physical in this except the server. The test machine is a VM, SMC, the controller is a VM, the gateways are VM. This is all VM based. It's all on the VMware ESXi server. Okay, and I think I still have, it's got around 24 processors. And around 128 GB of RAM out of the 32 is being used. So there's still a lot of RAM available where we can create more pods out of it, and you can, more students can basically access it. So once I give you the access to this RDP machine, you will be able to access these three resources. I will give you IP for this VMware, so that you can basically set up your topology. And this can be used for testing. There is another one for testing, which could be used. I'm also going to put a Ubuntu machine so that more labs can be basically done. Still going on. Okay, so this is second testing machine going on, but we are more concerned about this one. So these kind of problem comes when you have management IP of the controller being changed, because initially during installation, whatever is the IP, everything is bound to that. even if you look at the licensing that I showed today, licensing is bound to the management IP. So you have to make sure that when you buy license, the whatever management IP you have for your private subnet, because this management IP is generally on the private subnet. So you do not change the management IP, otherwise your licensing, your binding to your controller, everything will go haywire. Okay, so my controller seems to be all good. 10.4.12.20. Let's see if it works well. Okay, generally first time, as I said, it takes around 5 minutes because the web services and everything else will actually come up. Okay, it can go to internet also. Beautiful. Okay, I got stuck in this because I'm in the RDPA and I think I have to send special character or something to come out of it. Okay, I came out. Okay. Unable to connect to server, make sure all processes are up and running. Okay, server is initializing, so it will take some more time. Okay, it came up. Generally takes that much of time. I have to also see how many processors did I basically give it to this guy. Why is it slow? Because two CPUs should be good enough. Okay, so now see the CPU usage is 92%, and I think I should have given it 4. That's the reason it was so slow and it was taking a lot of time. At 71%, it's a green level now. But if I add the gateways here, we'll see what will happen to it. So CP1, gateway number 1, and open server 10 4 12 101. Cisco 1 2 3. You see the gateway it is showing, it is trying to add it. Okay. So CP1. We added CP1 to the other one. The thing was corrupted, so we'll just reset. SIG, we will reset the SIG. Are you sure? Yes. Good. Show configuration so that we can see what is the IP. Okay, 102. Okay, so this is actually the second gateway, and one I'm trying to add is CP1. Okay, CP1 is opposite, so CP1 is 102. CP1 is 102 and CP2 is 101. Not communicating peer bad certificate may block synchronization issues. Okay. Failed to retrieve certificate, untrusted host. We'll see that. Let's go and do this other one. This is our CP2, IP is 101. 10.4.12.10. Got alert from peer bad certificate may be clock synchronization issues. Okay. Guys, what could be the issue? Okay, whenever you have a certificate related stuff, we should be very, very careful. See that today, why is this issue coming is because I am actually doing it on a ESXi server. I never had this issue when I was doing on local machine, because when you are installing anything on the local machine, the time is actually picked up from your local machine. Okay, because I am doing it from ESXi, it is actually taking the time from ESXi, which is actually wrongly configured. So my CP1 and CP2, they both have wrong time configured. Okay, so if we go here, and my I think the controller, we went to the controller. This is, or maybe the controller has the wrong time because we just installed it. We did not go to the time zone. Here it is the time. I think this is the wrong time. Okay, no, the time, this one is correct. So 10.4.12.101. We'll check its time zone. Okay, we go to the time. Okay, so it's a wrong time. You see the time is not correct here. Unlock. Time is 8:18 something, so that is in the time zone. Let's see, time zone is correct. Time is wrong. Okay, 12:41. Okay. Okay, so time is correct for this, and then we go to other one.
But I think the date is not. It was 23.
Yeah, the date. Oh, why is it showing? Today is 24th, right?
If you look at your computer, it's 24.
Oh, it's actually the clock itself is. Let's go here to see what's going on. But it's showing Monday. I don't know why is it showing Monday. Okay, anyways, we'll see now. I think that should solve our problem here.
Today is 23rd.
Oh, today is 23rd only. Or is it 24? Because my machine shows 24.
No, today is 23rd.
Okay, so because of that, today's 23rd. So this machine is actually wrong. So checkpoint was correct here. So this is today's 23rd. Okay, so this time and both these times are accurate, and this is also, so here it is 24th, it is showing 1 day in advance the controller. Because of that, the certificates had issues. Okay, and we recreated the certificate with the new timestamp on both the gateways, and because of that, it could create a problem for us. Anyways, we'll see that if the problem comes. For the time being, we'll create a topology. Okay, this what should be the next step? The next step should be to create a topology. I'll just pick up one gateway, okay, which is CP2 to do this. So I'll just go to CP2. This is CP2 network interfaces. I'll take one public IP, one inside IP. Mm, 172.16.2.30 is what we configured. Enable, sorry, outside 172.16.2.30. 255.255.255.0. This is done, and then ten four two 30. So I can use management interface to go out, or if I want to keep a separate subnet inside 10.10.10.20 255.255.255.0. Okay, so this is my outside, this is my inside. Let's see if it is. It's named outside, this is named inside, and this is CP2. So we'll just go quickly to Smart Console, try to fetch the topology for this guy to see if it has basically taken the new topology information from Gaia. Okay, it has accepted. The interfaces have come. Save it. So policy rule, first policy rule is blocked. So we'll try to save the configuration to see if the gateway has any defect or anything. We'll come to know at the time of installation of this policy. Okay, looks fine. Failed. Let's see what is the thing. One is, so our one gateway which is configured CP2 is fine. CP1 has failed. We have not done anything on CP1. There are no interfaces configured, so that's fine. Now I'll just show you one of the examples of netting. So let's say in the policy we have internal host. Here it is. We create a rule for a host. The host name could be anything. Inside server, we have inside server host. IP address is 10.10.10.10. Okay, and because it's a host, we picked up host object. We don't need to define anything. I'm not clicking on NAT right now. I'll just create a rule, and then we will see the NAT feature. this guy can go anywhere on the internet. Okay? This particular host can go anywhere on the internet. And the second rule is basically, although it's conflicting, I'll just keep it like that. Or maybe this guy can do HTTPS. And probably SSH or something. Okay, now you see that in the NAT there is nothing much except one policy being created for something here. Okay, so and nothing else, all are blank. All other rules are blank. One for a default network, there is a default network called 10 subnet or something in this checkpoints 172.16.10.0, which is basically created for some kind of DHCP pool and all that. So they have done some static translation, but nothing else. Now what I'll do is I'll just go and create an AutoNet translation for this. Okay, I'm going to do an AutoNet translation. I'll do right now a static translation for this guy to a public IP of 172.16, maybe 2.40 or something. Okay, I'll say I'll do hide NAT, which is basically with this particular IP. I'll say now this hide NAT is exactly as your AutoNAT. Okay, this is what is basically the AutoNAT. Now what happens here is we'll go to NAT to check what happened. You see that there should be two entries. It's okay, it has one entry only, it is showing. Okay, so it has one entry for going from inside to outside. Okay, and that's the reason probably it's calling it hide NAT, and we'll just see the reverse of it. It should be basically two entries for it to happen. So one entry, the source is only getting translated. That means that from internet nobody can come and access this particular server. Okay, because only the source is getting translated. If somebody comes from outside, there has to be a reverse translation back for incoming traffic. Now same entry we will go back and we will convert it to static NAT. So I'll just go back to the NAT, change the AutoNAT to the static NAT, and I'll just say OK. Now we'll see in the NAT what basically happens. You see two entries are being created here. Okay, one for the server to go out and the other one is for server to come in. Now this is a two-way translation. This is a two-way translation, but the method you are still using is AutoNAT. Correct?
Here.
Yes.
Can you explain? I missed somewhere. Can you explain, please?
Yes, yes. So I'll just explain. So what we have used is AutoNAT mechanism. So both cases is AutoNAT with dynamic NAT, which is called hide NAT in checkpoint, and manual NAT, which is static NAT. Okay. When we did AutoNAT, what is the meaning of doing AutoNAT? AutoNAT means that we are basically doing source-based translation. Okay, or in the object you can say that we applied it on the object. Let's say it like that. You applied it based on the object. You applied directly to the object. Okay. If you do hide NAT, one translation is being created. If you do manual NAT, static NAT with AutoNAT, two translations are created. One is to go to the outside world. The second is for the outside world to come to this server. Okay. So hide NAT is going to use one translation and put a name here, dynamic NAT. While in the AutoNAT, when we do manual NAT, okay, these are all examples of AutoNAT. Remember that. These are all examples of AutoNAT. When I do manual NAT, I'll show you the manual NAT. Okay, but these are right now, these are AutoNAT examples. So in AutoNet manual, what happens is you have two translations for going out and coming back as well. Any doubt up to here, guys? This is the complete method is known as AutoNet. Why is it known as AutoNet? Because you are applying it on the object. Okay, where did we apply it? I'll just show you again how to apply and how to do it. It's the easiest one. When you see the manual net, the complex one, you will realize, yeah, that was easy. Okay, so when you go to the NAT entry here on, or even here, and you click on the NAT and put a source and destination, just the destination here, whatever was the source translation here, the public IP, this is your AutoNet mechanism. You are doing auto, you see that add automatic address translation could be two methods, dynamic, which is known as hide, or static, but this is AutoNet. What if I don't do this? I remove it, I say okay. What is it? In the NAT, it's gone, right? Both the entries, two entries are gone, right? Both the entries are gone. Now I want to have granular control over what I do, so I can create a rule here. In this, I can say my source, which is basically my inside server, is this, right? My translated source is going to be, I have to create an object for it. I will say public IP, okay? And my public IP is whatever IP that I want to set to. Right? So my source is getting translated. Guys, any confusion on this? This is called manual NAT. This is called manual NAT process. You are not using automated rule. You are not going to object and double click on it and do it automatically there. You are putting granular control over it. Now, what does this rule does? What is this rule doing right now?
So one question. For this manual NAT, there is no the reverse NAT rule required.
Correct. Absolutely. For manual NAT, because now you are doing it, there is no auto entry, reverse entry for it.
But it is required.
Which is absolutely required. If you want the outside traffic also to enter into your premises, you need to have a reverse translation as well.
But in this case, it's static, right? It's one-to-one mapping. So will that not be
one-to-one, one direction? It's one-to-one, one direction.
Okay. But in AutoNet, it created the reverse NAT automatically. That's what.
Absolutely. So in AutoNet, it creates two-way entries. Because it does automatically.
Okay.
Right. So in AutoNet, it basically does everything for us automatically. So we don't need to worry about the destination being translated here and all those things.
But one question: by seeing the NAT rule, how do we conclude whether it's a manual one or AutoNet? How do we?
You can just click on this object here. You will see that there is no AutoNet enabled. I did not click it.
Okay. But in our environment, there's an option called hide behind gateway. What does that mean actually?
That is PAT. That is PAT. Hide behind the gateway means use the gateway's IP address for going out. You do not have a dedicated IP, so use the gateway IP itself for going out.
Which means the interface IP, right?
Interface IP. Yes, correct.
How about order? Can we change the order?
Order of what?
Or order of the NAT. For example, manual NAT is the number one.
No. This is, so basically the universal rule of the world is static NAT comes on the top of every other NAT. Is the static NAT, no matter what platform you have, right? It's basically the static NAT will come on the top of it.
Okay, and how about the original source? Can we put the network ID instead of the one IP address?
Yeah, you can do that. So instead of host, you can put a full network, no problems.
Okay, thank you.
So let's say I'll create another object here. Instead of this, I wanted probably a full subnet to come. Okay, so I'll just do. Now I'm not going to pick host this time because you are asking me to do network. So I'll pick up network. Okay, and this is, let's say, inside subnet, not server, inside subnet. This inside subnet need to go to the outside world. Probably the public IP may be 4444. I need to translate it, right? Or sorry, the inside network, right? So let's see, 10.1.1.0, 255.255.255.0. Correct? This is my private subnet now.
Yeah.
Private. If I want to do AutoNet, I will do it here. Maybe I want everybody in my company to go using this IP. So that's absolutely fine. Okay, that's absolutely fine. But if I do not want to do using that, what is the second mechanism? I need to come with this particular address mechanism. Now let me try to do something here. Okay, 17.17.17.18. I'll just try to say okay. In Cisco, it will not take it. Okay, here it is taking, it is creating a reverse entry also, but in Cisco it will not do that. Why? Because in Cisco and any other platform, when you do netting, it has to be, this cannot be a subnet, and the NAT IP cannot be this, because you have one IP to these multiple hosts. That is incorrect. When I try to save it, it will give me error message. Correct? How can you NAT hundreds of IPs, private IPs, to one public IP? Can you NAT it? No. Can you PAT it? Yes. But can you NAT it? No, you can't. I'll just try to save the policy to C. CP1 we are not considering. We are focused on CP2 because that is the one we have installed the policy. So we'll see if the checkpoint gives error, because Cisco and other platforms, in fact, no networking platform should allow that. So we'll see here. You see the error?
Yeah.
It says, see that invalid. The range is, there you have a range, here you have one IP. How is that you are going to fit? NAT is one-on-one. If you have 100 private IPs and you want to do NAT to that, you need to have 100 exact public IPs for that. Got the point? If you have 100 public IPs, you need to have 100 private IPs for that. Sorry, 100 private IPs, you need to have 100 public IPs for it. You cannot do many to one. Many to one is called PAT. You cannot call it NAT. Static NAT doesn't allow it. Even dynamic NAT doesn't allow it. Correct? And that is the beauty of checkpoint, to tell you that this is exactly is the error that you.
Because one question, Vikas. Yeah, Rapan here. So my question is, like, we create an object and we call it in the rule, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
NAT rule.
Yeah, yeah, that is accepted. And one more thing is, so can I create an auto NAT for the same object in some other NAT rule? Is it
No,
possible?
once a netting is done, it will not allow the rule to be again created for the same guy. One guy can be natted once. Either you dynamic NAT it, or PAT it, or static PAT it, or something else. One rule, one per direction. Remember that. Two entries can be created for anybody. One for going out, one for coming in. Yes, it is possible that you can have for going out, you can have dynamic PAT, and for coming in, you can have static PAT. That is absolutely possible.
Because the example which we have given that the subnet inside subnet, uh, just for example, like if one of the hosted environment are only allow one IP to be get connected, means one of my public IP to get connected to that host, which is the hosted one. So in my inside subnet, I want also to be restriction that only by this I have couple of subnets. I want only one subnet to get connected over to that public IP, and I'm not using the interface IP and can reach can be allowed to go to that host. So is it possible?
So you can choose, you can choose what whomsoever you are netting, only he can go out. If you are not netting anybody, they can't go out. Netting is like a public IP ticket. Anybody who has a ticket, it is administrator job to assign. If you assign to one server, only he can go out. If you assign to two servers, they can go out. But if you are not assigning to anybody else, all those hundreds of servers, if they do not have a public IP, they can't go to internet.
No, my question is like my interface IP is something different. Say
Okay.
I have a WAN pool where I have IPs from service provider, but my interface IPs I have given one, so I have spare one with me. If I want to use one of those IP for a subnet to be used and go out, means for the hosted environment can see only that IP to coming in for the service.
Okay, so what is the question in that?
Means my inside subnet can use only that public IP, and you go out and connect. So is it possible by using PAT?
Okay. Let's understand that you have a IP address 10.10.10.10. What does this IP private IP want to do?
No, this one is a public IP, right?
No, this is a private IP. Let's say its public translation is this.
No. The private is 10.10.10 0/24.
Oh, it's a subnet. Okay.
And I want the traffic from this system, means this network, for host 1111 will use 17.17.17.17 only.
Okay.
But rest of the traffic from this subnet will use the interface IP.
So create one NAT entry for that guy and use PAT for the rest of the people.
Yes.
Correct. So that's how in production also people do that. You create two rules for that host that you want to have an IP, create a dedicated NAT rule. For rest of the public, you create a PAT rule that they will all use the one public IP and they will go to internet. But this server has importance. You will assign one dedicated IP to him so that he always has a fixed IP. That is 100% correct. Okay, so we can use any combination of these NATs and PAT. The order of operation is always static NAT. Under that, you have manual NAT. Okay. After that, you have dynamic NAT. Sorry, static NAT. You have static PAT, and that to manual. And then you have dynamic NAT and dynamic PAT. Static translations are given the highest preference over the dynamic one or auto NAT. Okay, first static dynamic, static manual, static dynamic. Remember that you do have static manual and you have static also possible in auto NAT. Both are possible. Highest preference will be given to static manual and then the next preference will be given to this. This is the order of operation. Then the dynamic comes in. Okay, just to revise it, if you do it from here, it's called manual NAT. If you do from NAT tab, you click here, you do manually, it's called manual NAT. Okay, if you go here, in manual NAT also you can have dynamic NAT, right? Whatever way you want, subnet to subnet, IP to IP and all those things. But if you go under the object and do it on the object, that is different. So very simple, fair definition is that if you do under the NAT, you create a translation rule yourself called manual NAT, static NAT. In static, you have manual NAT, right? But if you go here, sorry, if you go to the object, anywhere in the object, and you go and click here and you say auto NAT, automatic NAT. If you click on this, that becomes auto NAT. Under auto, you have two options, hide or static. But this is still auto. This is not manual. It's auto NAT. The other is manual NAT. So if you don't click on this, you don't do it from here, then you have the option
But
to go.
If here we put the hide NAT and give the one of the public IP from the pool, will that work?
Yeah, absolutely. You can have in hide NAT one IP, or you can have interface. That is absolutely fine.
Great, thank you.
Till the time that public IP is not used anywhere else, it can be used anywhere once, except if it is not a bad case, you know. In NATing, only one IP can be used once. So if you do dynamic NAT, auto NAT, static NAT, dynamic static, auto manual, anything, one public IP can be only used once in that tree. But in patting, you can use same IP at multiple times while going out and while coming in. Okay, guys, any confusion on this? I hope you're clear about all the different NAT types. The category wise, there's a very simple. One was auto, the other was manual. In auto, you had dynamic NAT, dynamic PAT, static NAT, static PAT. Okay. In manual also, you have all of those four. Copy paste it here. But the way they are done is differently. In AutoNet, you get a reverse rule for most of it, and here you don't get it. Okay, guys, any question or confusion we have on this?
No.
Okay, so I am basically tired now.
So, because one question.
Yes.
Whatever the NAT, right? Object NAT or manual NAT, whatever it is, it will be listed in the NAT tab, right?
Absolutely, absolutely correct.
Okay. So sometimes we end up with confusions whether it's been object NAT or auto NAT, or I mean.
No. It tells you. It tells you here. It will tell you here. It is automatic generated rule or is it statically generated rule? It will tell you everything. Here, the first rule is static, so there is nothing auto on that top of it. This is statically generated, so there is nothing auto. These are auto generated, so it is telling you these are auto generated.
So this is in R80, right? How about R77?
I have no idea about R77. I don't really remember because I was using it almost a year back, and this whole thing is completely different from that.
Because I have a question here, like if we create any NAT rule, do we need to make any changes in the policy also?
No, not really. NAT has nothing to do with the security policy. NAT is a different concept altogether. See, what happens is in the order of operation, you have certain things. Let's say first is that you need to have a packet coming from routing. Correct? If you have any VPN blade, VPN will come next. Okay. If you have any kind of netting happening, that will basically be taken care if it's an incoming netting or something. And if you have then other blades, which is basically firewall, so here you have security rules and all those things. Okay. Generally what happens is that security rule comes actually here. So when you look at here, the security rule basically comes here. Okay, so after routing, it's the blade security, then these things. So firewall has already permitted something, permit or deny. His job is permit and deny. Once the traffic is permitted or denied, after that you will basically reach to that stuff. Maybe you have VPN, so you are after permit or deny, you have entered into VPN. There is no need for netting, because VPN is more about getting into your network without any translation. VPN is an alternate to netting, right? So the other option you have is that you are going out, so you need to net. Now, they are not conflicting with each other. These are different steps. Step number 1, 2, 3, 4, order of operation. If something is denied by this, right, he cannot be netted. Because as a traffic, if you have a host on inside and that is denied, that he is not going to go anywhere. He cannot be basically part of anything because firewall denies him. Correct?
Yeah, got it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, guys. So that's all for today, and the lab and everything we'll do next class because it's already 3 hours 15 minutes. So last recording I have put it here. Day 1, day 2. This is day 1. And here is thing is day 2. This was day 2. Today I'll put day 3. Some previous recordings are also there. You can refer them, but last 2 recordings are here, and today's recording also I'll put it here. Okay, once this rack is ready, I will put a text file here called rack instructions. You can just look at the username, password, IPs so that you can start accessing that file. All right, guys, so I'll see you on next Sunday. And I think everybody try to get into that group so that at a single place, all the information is available.
Do we have class on Saturday, next Saturday?
Yes, yes, Saturday, Sunday. These classes are Saturday, Sunday this time.
So, actually, I joined a bit late. So, did we complete the identity awareness?
No, we have not touched that. We have basically done the basic installation, security policy, and netting. We still have to do identity awareness, remote VPNs, site-to-site VPN, clustering. All those things are still pending. All the big topics are still pending.
Okay. Any CLI commands for checking the NAT? Because we in checkpoint, I mean in ASA we give show NAT, show X-ray.
See, ASA is all about CLI, right? Here it's all about graphical. I can find a lot of commands for that, but you would not like to do it because those are like Linux type of commands.
Okay.
Okay, so once you do on Google, you just type checkpoint NAT commands, you will find FW NAT and some more stuff. But the thing is, the most powerful thing about checkpoint, what people like is graphical interface. Even to an extent that I tried to save a rule, knowing the rule is wrong, but I wanted firewall to prove the rule is wrong. Because this is so amazing interface. And if you can see everything from here and you can search anything from here, why would you go back to CLI?
Okay, but is there any CLI specific tasks that can only be done in CLI like that in this product?
Yes. So some of the stuff like that CP config, resetting the SIG interface and all that can only be done in the CLI.
Okay.
You cannot reset the SIG interface and all that from any of the neither Gaia nor from the smart console.
How about the CCIE exam? Do you think we have to know the CLI commands or not?
Not really, not really.
Okay.
They have just couple of monitoring commands on CP config and basically for HA probe and VPN util it's called. These are the three things basically required for that. See, the official guide is here and the lab guide is there. You will see you won't have many of the CLI commands in this. Alright guys, so today we did the theory of NAT plus Gaia, right? These two things we were able to do because this certificate issues and all those things. Next class we are going to do lab of NAT, identity awareness and remote access VPN. Identity awareness using local database and Microsoft Active Directory also. Right, I'll see you next in the next class, guys, on next Saturday.
Vikas.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is Bapuji calling from Hyderabad.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, actually, I want that. Actually, I missed 2 classes earlier.
Okay.
So I want that videos what you recorded, no?
Okay. I think. Yeah, I'll just send it to your email.
Okay.
This is the folder where everything will be there. Okay, so all
that's fine.
will be at the same.
Yeah, you please share that URL, na, so that
I'm just sending it to your email, and the meeting ID will always be same. It's the same meeting ID, which always will be same. And it's 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. kind of classes.
Okay, fine.
All right, guys, I'll see you in the next class. Take care, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.